Who better than me?
Welcome back to yet another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy, Base the Kid. This is going to be a two-part special. First part is the DAZN card that was done by Matchroom in Liverpool, which literally just finished about an hour ago. I had to go back and watch the Shannon Courtenay Jamie Mitchell fight just because when it came on first time, I fell asleep. I was tired. I fell asleep literally just before the fight started, and I woke up right at the end to find out that Jamie Mitchell won the fight. So I had to go back and kind of see how that transpired and see what happened. But I guess I did see the Kieran Conway fight against JJ Metcalf, and that was, Kieran kind of fought tall for the majority of the fight, did what he needed to do, eked out a points victory. I mean, he's never gonna be the knockout guy or the guy that gives you like the what we would call a barn burner or just all out scrap. But he's composed, measured, like he can kind of grit it out when he has to, but everything's measured, kind of behind the jab and the straight right as well, just sort of keeping the smaller guy off of him. It was a decent fight. Now just watching, as I said, Shannon Courtenay and Jamie Mitchell. Like Jamie Mitchell beat the brakes off Shannon, and I was all here for it because from being unprofessional with the weight, for whatever reasons you want to claim, just to general demeanor, acting like she's too good for everybody. This is the kind of humbling that she needed, because only fighters that exude and actually show levels of class, to me, deserve to be able to talk like that. Because unless you know that you literally can't be beat, and there's no one that's really like that, like you can't be acting like you're above everyone or that everyone around you is whiffing of a bad smell, and you can't be bothered with that. No. So she had to take that work, and she got given all of that work. Hematoma on one side, the face all swelled up, and somehow managed to think that she won the fight at the end. Oh my god, like I don't even know how you were like looking shocked. As the house fighter, be lucky that one of the judges gave you the 95-95 draw, because that's about as best as it was getting for you, and there was no way that you won 5 rounds of that fight. But big shout out to Jamie Mitchell. I'd seen one of her fights before. She was actually a lot more slower in that fight, like more of a pot shot, kind of good defense, tight hooks. This fight, she must have heard about UK judging sometimes being very partial to the home fighter, because she just came out and smoked from round one. Like she basically ran into the fire and stood there and said, "Try and burn me." The burns didn't come. She took the best shots that Shannon could dish, defended a lot of them, but for every one shot that Shannon might have thrown at her, she hit Shannon back with about 6 or 7. And I was all here for the work rate. Like, this is someone that was not going to be denied today, regardless. And I've got to give a big congrats to her on the victory. Now, I found out that there was a rematch clause. And that's kind of, yeah, you would understand there'd be a rematch of the champion obviously trying to get their belt back. But now I'm looking at this rematch clause, like, hold on a minute. You weren't even the champion going into the fight, because that belt got taken from you. So now that Jamie Mitchell's won the fight, you think you're going to get a rematch to fight for the title that you just lost on the scales. I don't know how that one's supposed to work, because I swear down in the rules of most of the sanctioning bodies, it says unless you are the existing champion, that you can't fight for a title coming off of a loss. Or is that just in the men's category, because there's a lot more of them about? I'm not sure. But technically, because Shannon Courtenay wasn't the champion and couldn't win the belt, should that rematch for for the title, shouldn't that be null and void? Unless the rematch stipulates, well, the rematch is to fight the person, which is Jamie Mitchell, but the WBA won't sanction the bout as a title fight. I need clarification on that, so I might have to speak to a couple of people and see if I can get any clarity on that. But ultimately, congrats to Jamie Mitchell. She done her thing. Next was the McGrail Harrison fight, which is literally playing on the TV right next to me now. Not really much to say. Like McGrail, you can see the amateur pedigree. You can see why he was such a decorated and highly touted amateur moving into the pros. No great killer instinct, but I'm sure that will come in time. When he starts sort of setting his shots up a little better, trying to work on ways to actually finish an opponent rather than to just sort of outpoint them. But he did well, so congrats to him. I'll be looking at the career moving forward. But next, now this was the fight that messed up an accumulator that I had, and it was Ted Cheeseman against Troy Williamson. Now this was an amazing fight. On my accumulator, I picked Cheeseman. I didn't actually do a prediction on this fight. I just said it should be a good fight. If you look at the thoughts video that I'd done, but I picked Cheeseman purely because I'd seen more of him, and he was the house fighter. So I figured they wouldn't. Essentially, I thought that he might get the rub of the green, being the house fighter. Didn't start well for him at all. Like, I think he lost the first round, won the second, and then lost the next 5. In my on the scorecard I was doing on the live on Undefeated podcast with KG and Maestro from Maestro A Boxing, so shout out to him as well. But then round 6 came, or was it round? Yeah, it was round 6 came next, and then he sort of started to come back a little bit. Round 7 he took over, and he started walking down Williamson. And he done a lot of body work initially, invest into Williamson's body, and it started to pay dividends, because at this point they were both tired, but Williamson was looking visibly more damaged. So round 7 and 8 was all Cheeseman. But then round 9, all of a sudden it became a bit 50-50 again. Cheeseman, I think, still kind of had the better work, a bit busier, but he was starting to come apart, looking like his balance was gone. He'd been hit with a couple shots that looked like they just sort of took his equilibrium, and he did well to stay on his feet. But Williamson started getting a foothold in the fight. And then, oh gosh, round 10. That knockout was nasty. Started with a right uppercut. And then what happened? Cheeseman tried to throw a punch, and he got caught with, I believe it was like a right that hit him on the ear. Was it a right, or was it from the left hand side? He got hit with the uppercut with the right. Yeah, then I think he dipped his head and got hit with sort of like the straight that went across the side of his ear, which looked like that buckled his equilibrium, and then the left came back to the jaw, which basically just took him out. Or it was straight right, left to the ear, and then it was the hook to the jaw. It was one or the other, but either way, it was a 3-punch salvo, and Cheeseman was already leaning forward because he tried to exchange his punch in the midst of the initial flurry, and Williamson got him out of there. And he was on the ground, just exhausted, spent. He looked KO'd. He didn't look like he was actually going to move for a period of time, but he composed himself, got himself together. They did the checks on him. He was fine. But at this point, especially given the fact that Cheeseman's only 26 years old and he's had as much hard fights as he's had, I don't want to see him in the ring again in these kind of fights. I know he's not a guy that's going to be elusive and defensively minded or stuff, but we've established he's maxed out at British level. Like, he's not good enough to get to European. He's British level, but take him down to English level now, or even Commonwealth. Like, let him have. I think he deserves, after the career he's had, if you want to keep boxing him, let him have fights a level below where he's fighting currently, because the amount of damage he's taking, I'm actually worried for his health moving forward. And I don't know the brother. Like, we both come from South London, but I never met him. I just don't want to see someone taking that kind of beating after beating after beating in every single fight. Now, I'm not saying, oh, you got to be protected from hard fights, but he's not just having hard fights. He's having life and death scraps like every match, and it's not healthy, especially for, like I said, for someone that's 26 years old, who realistically is going to have another 5 to 8 years career, judging by the normal trajectory of a boxer. And if he has another 5 to 8 years of this, it's not going to end well. He's going to have serious health issues in later life. So, Eddie, Frank, whoever's dealing with the matchmaking, like, it's time to bring him down, because he's maxed out at British, and he don't need to be taking no more of these kind of beatings. Main event time though. Man like Liam Beefy Smith against Anthony Fowler. Sorry, I don't even know what his ring name is. I'm sure I do, but I don't have it to head right now. It's been a long day. Now, I had a lot of people were saying, oh, they thought Fowler was going to win. He's the younger guy, sort of the naturally bigger guy, got the reach. Could Smith be a bit shot worn because he's had so many different bouts? He's coming off of a loss. But then a lot of people acknowledge that the loss he's coming off of wasn't really a loss, because he didn't lose the fight. Now, I haven't seen the fight, but I can only go by the reports of everyone who has seen it, who said he won that fight. So he wasn't coming into this match with a loser's mentality. He was coming into this match with a mentality of, I'm still world level. I'm still trying to get a title out here, and you're bringing me a guy that's British. He ain't even stepped up to European yet, and this is who you're trying to say can be on my level. I mean, yeah, Anthony Fowler's got Shane McGuigan in the corner, but McGuigan is not a miracle worker. Great coach, tremendous coach. Will be a ATG by the end of his career, I'm pretty sure. But again, not a miracle worker, and not in such a short space of time. So I was predicting for Liam Smith to win the fight, and it was a bit rocky sort of the first couple rounds, but everyone kind of knew that, Fowler, big, strong, ultimately is going to be competitive at the start, because why wouldn't you be? Like, generally speaking, in all of his fights, he is fresh, sharp, hungry and dangerous for like sort of the first 4 to 5 rounds, but he's notoriously got gas issues. Like, I think he's probably too big realistically for the 154 division, so he's boiling himself down, I reckon, to get there. He's making the weight. He's saying it's comfortable, but I don't really think it's comfortable. I think he's making it because his body is still young enough to do so, but I don't really think he's 154 anymore. I think probably that's the reason why he gasses out so quick. He's got this big burst of energy, then the body's depleted because most of the nutrients it needs are not there. But yeah, as I said, at world level or even European level, he's like, at this point, at 154, a 4-round fighter. If he can't get you right in that first 4 rounds, everything after that is a bit ropey. And Liam Smith showed his experience, weathered the storm early, because he was buzzed. He was quite hurt in the first couple of rounds. You thought, oh, maybe this could be the changing of the guard in Liverpool. But I said to people, there's no way that he can lose this fight because the fact of it being in Liverpool, like he can't walk down the street if he loses this. Fowler can come again, but the Smith name, the Smith brothers, like they ring off up north. So his pride alone wouldn't have let him lose this fight, even if he thought he was starting to go on the downward slide, downward trajectory, maybe not being as world level as he used to be. Like his pride wouldn't have allowed him to lose this fight. So even after the cut and everything, like I said, had some harsh moments. It was nip and tuck sort of the first couple rounds, but from sort of round 3, round 4 onwards, he basically just took over, started to walk down Fowler, started to get on the inside, tee off on him, tight, compact hooks to the head, to the body, roughhouse tactics, some of the dark arts as well. Like he did what he needed to do. Stepped off the pace in round 6 and 7, I think. He got the knockdown in round 4, I think it was. It was round 4 or round 5 where he knocked down Fowler. Went to go finish him, but wasn't loading up or just swinging for the hills. He was taking measured approach because I guess he wasn't trying to blow out his entire gas tank. Next couple rounds, kept up the pressure, walking him down, but was choosing his shots very selectively. So he was definitely trying to gain his breath. But at this point, Fowler was actually coming back into it in terms of just trying to keep him at bay at the end of the jab, keeping him at the end of the jab. But you could tell that the gas was just dropping down. It was depleting rapidly. And then it got to round. What round did it end in? It ended in round, was it 8 or round 9? It was one of them. And it was the second knockdown. He got up, but the ref looked in the eyes and saw that it was only going one way. He wasn't fully steady. He got up with his back turned to the ref initially. Ref waved it off. Right decision. Beefy Smith carries on, and now apparently gets a big Jesse Vargas fight at the first quarter of 2022, or the first third. It will be one of the two. It's well deserved. Overall, I want to say it was a tremendous card. I even watched a lot of the before the bell stuff, but I do not remember any of those fights because they were about 8 hours ago, and I'm not going back through. Apart from a quick one for Solomon Dacres against Kamil Sokolowski. Very good fight for Solomon, and him taking a fight like that on his third fight shows that with a couple extra years seasoning, marinating the beef, before it goes in the oven, giving it time to sort of seep in before you cook that final product. Solomon Dacres is going to be a problem. He doesn't have great punching power, but his movement is very good. He can exhibit combos as he did sort of in his first couple fights, but he can move. His head does stay on the line a bit too much, especially when he's got such a low left hand, but he is always kind of moving just enough that he's not taking anything super flush, and he's got pretty good reflexes, very good reflexes. He's a very fluid fighter. Doesn't seem to be tense, doesn't seem to panic, and all of that I think allows him to take shots a lot better because he's not tense, so the impact is not as great when he does take them. But Kamil Sokolowski is, he's basically, I call him a fringe gatekeeper. A lot of people say he's not a journeyman. Like, he's literally there to win. I put him on the fringe of the gatekeeper because he's not quite on the level of like a Chisora or a Takum or a Ustinov or someone like that, or even a Marius Rack or someone along those lines. But he's a guy that is coming to win the fight, and if you are a hype job, you might get the decision because of home cooking, a la David Aladillier, but he's going to make you work for that victory. He's not there to just make you see different angles and work on things. No, he's there to give you a fight. And for Dacres to take this fight in his third one and handle it as it was fairly comfortable. Like the first half of the fight was very competitive. I think I had it at one point 3-2 to Dacres after 5 rounds, and then after 6 I had it. I had at one point, I think I was either 4-2 or 3-3, because there was a round where I said, okay, I can see it's probably going to go to Dacres, but you could give it to Sokolowski as well. At the end of the fight, though, it was a 5-3, 6-2 type fight for me, just due to sort of some of the the extra work rate, some of the cleaner work, keeping out of the danger zone, especially towards the second half of the fight, and even looking like he was trying to go for the stoppage from sort of round 7 and 8 when Sokolowski was completely gassed out. So yeah, big shout out to Solomon Dacres as well. Just wanted to throw that in there because he deserved it. Whether he's going to see it on this channel or not, I don't know. But, it is what it is. But yeah, overall, very good card. Highly entertained. Definitely $7.99 for the month of October has been well spent thus far. Looking forward to the Garcia Martin card next week, which is the 16th of October, so next Saturday. Looking forward to that one. And yeah, keep it moving. I think there's another card towards the end of the month as well. All good. It's the end of part 1. Now I'm just going to go get a little rest, get ready for Fury Wilder 3, and I'll be talking about that one shortly. So for the time being, hardcore casual out.